Welcome back to All the Mods. I'm Bumpstar, and we've got a pretty solid power system set up now. Everything in our world is running, but it's definitely not as efficient as it could be. We still have a lot of manual steps, some slow crafting, and a few systems that just aren't fully connected yet. So in this episode, we're going to focus on upgrading and cleaning everything up. We're going to automate some of our existing setups and improve our AE2 system with better pattern providers and assemblers, and make it a lot easier to manage all of our crafting. I also want to set up a way to process all of our mystical agriculture, because in between episodes, like I said I was going to, I went ahead and crafted an absolute ton of seeds. I needed a second floor for the seeds because there were just so many. So the plan is to take everything that we're generating and automatically turn it into the resources that it's supposed to be. So that way we don't have to do it manually or make patterns for it. By the end of this episode, everything should feel a lot smoother, faster, and way more automated. So let's get into it. So in between episodes, I set this up. Still got our ice seeds, and we're doing 5 of them. We can probably drop that down to 1 pretty soon. But everything else, I just have a single seed. And I crafted a ton of them. When I say it took me forever, I mean it took me forever to do this. And as I was going about and crafting seeds, I was accepting quests, which then were giving me other seeds that I didn't already have. Things like Solium. I could have crafted it, but I wasn't planning on it, but I got the seed anyway. We also got things like creeper seeds and rabbit. I think those creeper seeds, rabbit, and fish, I believe, were the only mob seeds that we got, and I didn't do any mob seeds because, well, I think I'm going to use mob farms for those for the most part. But now that we have all these essences, we need to craft them to their materials. At least some of them. We definitely don't need to do all of them, as I put most of them over here. We have a couple here, but a lot of them are on this wall right here. And yeah, I mean, we've got a solid amount of essences. Originally for this playthrough, I wasn't going to use mystical agriculture as much, but I figured, why not? Let's go all out with this. Let's do mystical agriculture. Let's do the mining dimension, and we'll even do bees later on. But today's episode is all about just cleaning the system up. The first thing that I want to do is start crafting some pattern providers and molecular assemblers from ExtendedAE, because this will allow us to store more patterns. Instead of having a single row of patterns here, I believe we get 4 rows of patterns. And then for the molecular assemblers, when we upgrade those to the extended version, they will do 8 crafts in a single assembler instead of 1. So we're going to go ahead and break this tower and use these to craft the next step. I went ahead and set up the patterns for pretty much everything we're doing today ahead of time because nobody wants to sit here and watch me make patterns all day. So we're just going to go ahead and craft 8 and 8 and then place those down exactly where the other ones were. And while we're waiting on that to finish crafting, there's one thing that I do want to craft right away, and that is going to be one of these terminals, and it is going to be the pattern access terminal. That way we can access all of our patterns directly from a single terminal instead of having to go to each pattern provider to look at them. And by the end of this episode, that crusher should be a lot faster with plenty of speed and energy upgrades to help speed up this process. Currently it's running a little slow with crafting the gravel and the sand, although I can probably start crafting those with essences. Yeah, we have dirt and we have fire essence. I should probably set this up instead of using the crusher to do so, because the crusher is busy doing other things. We'll go ahead and make that pattern here for sand, pop it in one of our pattern providers, and let's get rid of this one. Let's do the same thing with gravel too. Yeah, just some stone and dirt essence. We have plenty of that. So we have our ME pattern access terminal, and if we place that down, we can now access all of our patterns from a single spot. The only thing that we're going to run into here is we are currently going to have too many channels running off this single smart cable. If we look here, one of our export buses is not going to be connected anymore. And there we go. Not the best look in the world, but we'll fix this later on. We are starting to run out of channels too, so we're going to need to add our controllers around. And I'm just going to start adding them around in a circle as we go, as we need more channels. There's no point on overflowing it right now. even though we have the power to deal with it. But now that we have our extended pattern provider and molecular assembler, we're going to go ahead and set these up. But now that we have this down, you can take a look at the pattern provider, and yeah, we have 4 rows that we can fit patterns into now. And then for the assemblers, it looks the same, but we have this arrow, and we can go over and do 8 jobs at a time. So one of these extended molecular assemblers is equivalent to this entire tower. That's gonna be huge. And then on top of it, we can take acceleration cards and we can click those into each assembler to put 4 in total. Or actually, all right, that's 5 total, even better. So now we're gonna go ahead and just do that for each one of these towers. But we're gonna need to take all of these patterns out and place them into this, or we could do the upgrades to just upgrade them directly and not have to worry about moving the patterns, which is probably smarter. Alright, so then we can just shift right click our upgrades onto the pattern providers to upgrade these without having to move the patterns that are already in here. And we get our double. And then we'll just go ahead and break these assemblers and replace them with the new ones. Yeah, this is a bit easier than rebuilding the whole tower, isn't it? And we're going to do that 2 more times. And now if we take a look at our pattern terminal, we can see we have an absolute ton of storage in our pattern providers. So we're not going to run out of room anytime soon. And then we're going to go ahead and put some extended upgrades in each one of these pattern providers that we have around here as well. Just, well, because we can. There is no way. I just picked up one of the insanium that I have crafting from over here. I have this crafter set up, which all you have to do is click the craft that you want to put in here, set it to stay internal for the first couple steps, and it'll make the craft of the potentium, place it in here, keep doing that, and then the next one, once you hit 4 potentium, it'll make the next step, and the next step, you keep going all the way until you get to obsidian, and then you do extract C. And what that'll do is it'll extract all the insanium, but it's going to keep the master infusion crystal inside the crafter here. So it'll just get extracted out. And all I'm doing for this is I have an interface here, modular router that's pulling all of our infernium essence out of this interface, and then it's sending it over here. I have 6 stack upgrades and 9 speed upgrades. So it's going to send all of our infernium essence into this. This is going to run all the crafts, and then I just have a pipe with a diamond upgrade pushing back into the interface, so that way all the insanium gets pushed into our system. But in doing so, I accepted the quest for the insanium, and I got a netherite seed. And it doesn't look like this needs any special soil, so we're just going to go place that down. And there we go, netherite essence. Let's place that in a drawer over here. And now we have netherite automated. It's going to take a little bit. This setup isn't the fastest that we have available, but it'll build up over time. And we do have 176 ancient debris, but I haven't touched it at all yet. I haven't used netherite for anything. Now we're going to go ahead and make a ME extended drive because we're almost full up on our drives over here. And we're going to need some more soon and really upgrade to higher storage tiers of this. But for now, we'll just place a drive right here. And this just gives us 2 rows. So once this is filled up, we can start using this one, pop them all in there, and then upgrade this one as well. But now the next thing we're going to do is, well, clear out this room a little bit. So I went ahead and placed all of our infusion factories down. We've got 4 of them here, and we have a single enriching factory. You could set this up with 1 enriching and 1 infusing and be completely fine. I like to do 4 separate ones for each individual thing like we had set up originally. 1 for refined obsidian, 1 for diamond, 1 for carbon, and 1 for redstone. So that way, if I need to craft all of those things at one time, they're not going to get locked up behind each other. It'll complete the craft cycle a lot quicker. If you have patience and you're fine with waiting, then all you need is 1 of them. And you only need 1 enriching factory. That's just going to make these run a little more efficiently like we did before. So what we're going to do is place our pattern providers behind them. And for the enriching factory, we're just going to use a regular extended pattern provider. But for infusing factories, we're going to use the advanced extended pattern provider. So setting up the patterns for the enriching factory is pretty simple. We just set up the basic patterns for all the enriched things. And now for the fun part. For our infused alloy, it goes into a metallurgic infuser. It's 1 copper with 10 millibuckets of redstone. And we know from before that enriched redstone is 80 millibuckets. All the enriched turn it to 80 millibuckets. So if we hit here, it's going to try and put the redstone fluid in. You can click that to clear it. And we are going to drag a enriched redstone here instead. But we know that it costs 10 millibuckets to do 1 copper, but we get 80 millibuckets from this. So what we want to do is change our copper ingots to 8. And we want to change our output to 8. So every time it does this craft, it's going to send a single enriched redstone in with 8 copper ingots to make 8 infused alloys. For reinforced alloy, it is the infused alloy plus 20 millibuckets of diamond. So we clear the diamond out, we put the enriched in here, and it's going to be 4 infused alloy for 4 reinforced alloy. And then the exact same thing with the atomic alloy, except it is going to be 2. So we put 2 reinforced in for 2 atomic alloy. And then for our enriched iron, it is going to be enriched carbon, 8 iron ingots for 8 enriched iron. And then for our steel dust that we get from our metallurgic infuser, it's the same thing. Enriched carbon, 8 enriched iron equals 8 steel dust. And then the last one that we want to set up with our infusers is going to be the basic control circuits, which is 20 millibuckets of redstone for 1 osmium. So 4. Now I am going to come in here and I'm just going to dump all of this. We have plenty of the resources now that we don't have to worry about it. From this point, we can't put the processing patterns in here. They won't work. If we take our infused alloy and put it into this and we try to place this, it's going to try and put everything in here. It doesn't know to put the enriched item into the extra slot. That's why we're using the advanced extended, and we need to use the advanced pattern encoder, which is held in your hand. So before we use that, we want to come into our setup and let's clear this setup. First, turn on eject on. We want to set the input output to the back to the pattern provider. But then we want to set the top to extra. And we're going to do this exact same setup for each one of our infusion factories. Now that we have that set up, we can go into our advanced pattern encoder and let's take our infused alloy. We're going to tell it to keep the copper on the basic target one, but for the enriched redstone, we're going to have it target the up face of the machine. And then we need to pull this pattern out. And as you can see, that pattern changes. It gets that little purple on the edge. So it's now a advanced pattern. So now if we put this inside, let's go ahead and request 8 alloys. We can see that this is now working. It put 80 redstone in. It put the 8 copper ingots in. And it pulls it right back out. So now we just need to do that for the rest of our patterns. We didn't need the extended for this because these really are the only patterns that are going in. And that's why only using a single infusion factory will be fine, because as long as you set this up correctly, you'll never have anything left inside of here. It'll always be empty. If you do use a single one, make sure to set your pattern provider to blocking mode, or else it'll get a little jumbled up. But now we're going to set up our refined obsidian, and it's just like we crafted it before, except now we're setting up as patterns. And now we have all the basics of mech automated. The only other thing that we have to worry about is setting up all the control circuits. And for that, we're just going to use this basic pattern and just create the patterns here, because all of this is already automated. But now that we have all of that set up, that means that we can start setting up patterns for all of the Mekanism cables, the tier upgrades, the speed upgrades, the tanks. It's all ready to go and be used. So I'm going to set up all those patterns because I really like using Mekanism cables. And we also want to set up the tier installers and the energy and speed upgrades because, well, we want our machines running as fast as possible. We have the power to handle it now. Somewhere along the line, I messed up one of these patterns. So our atomic alloy does not want to craft. So let's take a look. Ah, right there's my issue. I put the atomic alloy in instead of the enriched obsidian. Make sure if you adjust your pattern for the advanced pattern encoder, if you messed it up, make sure to re-put it into the encoder here, because if not, it won't work. There we go. Now it's crafting. All right, let's put our tier upgrades in, and now all of these should be as fast as possible. They've got the most crafts being done. They're all upgraded with 8 speed, 8 energy. Let's test this out. Let's go ahead and have it make 100 of our ultimate control circuits and see how long this takes. This thing is zooming through. Look at that go. At this point, it's just assembling it. It's crafting the rest of the infused alloys and just popping it all together. And it's done. That maybe took a minute and a half to make 100 ultimate control circuits. Where before we had this automated without everything fully upgraded, it took me hours to get our QIO system going. This whole setup isn't even the fastest that it can possibly be. These are kind of the fastest. The only thing that you could do to speed this up even further would be to have multiple infusion factories all doing the same thing, surrounding the pattern provider to just increase the amount that can be done at a single time. But for the ending craft of having to combine all of these together with the alloys, this setup isn't the fastest it can be. We still have a way to go before we get to the quickest. Okay, so I've gone ahead and crafted 10 tier 1 crafters from RF Tools utility, 10 interfaces, which we probably won't even need 10, modular routers, speed and stack upgrades, as well as puller and sender modules, because we're going to set up this, but for our mystical agriculture essences, and we're not going to do all of them. We're just going to do the important ones. Just the stuff that we're going to use a lot of all the time, where things like the dye essence and the wood essence, nature essence, and fire and water, and all of those kind of essences that we're not going to just use a ton of whatever it can make with this setup. Anytime you find that you need a specific essence, you can use this to fully automate it. All right, so we're going to put a point down here. Make sure to turn that on. Then we're going to run some power cables here up and down and along the back here to power all of this from a single point. I think it's time for us to craft the personalized shrinking tool. Very, very useful tool. Just ender pearl, glass, iron, and a stone button. If you right click it, you can set how small you want to go, and then shift right click and it makes you tiny. As you can see, I am the size of a single block now. So let's go ahead and place our modular routers down. I moved this up a little bit so that way we don't dig into our hallway. We're going to place modular routers down right here. Then we're going to place some pipes here. Going to configure these to pull from each one and then set the interface here. Then we just need to run our cable up to our interface. And then we just need to figure out which essences we want to craft. So we're obviously going to do diamond, gold, iron, netherite, nether quartz, fluix, copper, sardis quartz, and I think that's it for now. So we're going to do 8 total, which means we will have 2 of our crafters up here available for anything else that we want to set up later on. And then I'm just going through and I'm bookmarking all of the crafts that we are going to use for this. So that way we can right click on our crafter here, click on the recipe, tell it we want this one to do diamonds, apply. So now once we start sending the diamond essence into here, it'll start crafting diamonds. And we're going to set up all the other ones before we start placing in all of the essences. And for now, we're just doing a single recipe per crafter, but we could absolutely set this up to be multiple recipes in a crafter, as eventually we're going to start running low on essences and it will be able to handle it no problem. So now if we come in here and we drop our 64 stacks, that instantly turns into diamond and got sent back to our system through our extended interface, because it's getting pushed through these into the extended interface, which is connected to the system, so it'll get crafted through. So now what we want to do is set up our interface here, so that way it is going to pull in everything we have in our inventory. So the first thing we're going to want to set up is our puller modules. And we're going to want to split them across our bar here so that way we can set up the correct listing for this. But if we right click that into the air, we're going to set this one to a white list and set it to diamonds. We want to figure out which one we have diamonds sent to, and then we want to shift right click onto our interface. And we put that one into our modular router, and that's going to start filling up with diamond essence. We want to put 9 speed and upgrades in here and 6 stack to just make it pull a stack in at a time. And then we're going to do that for each crafter that we have set up here. And now for our sender module, all we want to do is take it, shift right click onto the crafter and put that one into the corresponding modular router. And there we go. We now have all of these completely automated. Let's take a look at our quartz. We can see both of our Certus quartz and our nether quartz are going up. And it'll slow down over time because, well, we're going to use all of those essences to do it. Before I finish this episode, I would like to set up the beginnings of our wireless network through Applied Energistics. We're going to take a wireless access point, and I'm going to go ahead and place that right here. And now what we can do is let's go ahead and make ourselves a wireless crafting terminal. And then you know what? Let's make ourselves a wireless pattern access terminal. And while we're at it, we might as well make a wireless pattern encoding terminal. And then let's take all 3 of those and put them in a crafting bench together to make a wireless universal terminal. And we can take this, put it into our wireless access point. It'll come from here down to here. And now it's linked to our system. We can now access our system wirelessly. But unfortunately, if we move too far away, we're out of range. We can make a infinity range booster. To do that, we're going to need some wireless boosters, aluminum gear, an enderium gear, and some netherite. We already have some enderium essence. We can absolutely make aluminum dust, and then make 3 of our wireless boosters to make a infinity range booster. And then we just take that and we place it right here. So now we can use our network completely wirelessly anywhere in the overworld. Now, if we want to be able to use our network wirelessly in any dimension, we need to make the dimension card. And that's going to require some nether stars, which means we have a goal for next episode. And right before we end this episode, we are going to go ahead and upgrade our furnace from emerald all the way to a netherite furnace, because this is going to speed this thing up an absolute ton. So that's going to be it for today's episode. We did a lot of quality of life things. We got a lot of things kind of cleaned up around here and made our lives a bit easier moving forward. Next episode, I think it's time we take on the wither and automate nether stars. Because, well, they're really important, and we're going to need a ton of them if we want to craft the AllTheMons Star. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. Later.